Okay, take two here on Tier Maker. I just felt like doing a tier list. I'm gonna do this maybe for each of the doctors, and here on tiermaker.com, and I'm gonna start with the one that's the easiest. It's like 3 clean seasons. I know which ones I like, which are few, which is the fifth Doctor, Peter Davison. So we'll just go through here. I'll make remarks on ones that deserve some sort of remarks, but for the most part, I'll just sort of put these in categories. Sorry about that. Okay, so first one here is... what is that one? Modern Undead. Oh yeah, Modern Undead is quite good. I like that a lot. I put that in A tier. There's the Black Guardian trilogy, Modern Undead, Terminus, and Enlightenment, and they kind of make a kind of a loose trilogy. There's a new character, Turlo, who I really like. There's a character that leaves, which is sad, which is Nissa, and we kind of have an arc involving Turlo kind of, working for the Black Guardian, but then turning good at the end. And this first one is a real kind of got timey-wimey sort of time travel stuff. It's got the Brigadier, who the Brigadier is brilliant. Weirdly, I think they originally wanted to have, I forget whether it was the actor or the character's name. They originally wanted to have the character that was like the school teacher from the very early days, but he couldn't make it, or there was a scheduling conflict or something, and so they got Nicholas Courtney, who's the Brigadier, to come back, but he's being a school teacher for some reason. Like, we know that he had a career at the unit beforehand, and we know he returned to unit after, canonically, whatever you make of canon in Doctor Who. But for some reason, he's at private all-boys school. Anyway, real solid. See here, Frontios. I don't really remember a whole lot. I'm going to put this in C tier. Not particularly memorable. Let's see here, Visitation and Frontios I kind of put in the same category, as just sort of being very filler episodes that had some cool effects, but for the most part, real forgettable. Fort of Doomsday is A tier for me. I know that's probably a little bit controversial. It's maybe near the bottom of A tier, but it's like the first episode, the first serial they recorded with Peter Davison and his 3 companions. So we got Adric, Nissa, and Tegan, and they all work really well. They've got really good chemistry with Peter Davison. It's a shame that didn't manage to utilize the characters so well. I mean, it really is kind of the crowded TARDIS years. But this particular, the first one, is a really good outing just as a character piece. Like, you get a lot of good character moments. You really get to understand how his character is going to be. It's kind of that episode. So the story is so-so, but the character moments are really what sell it for me. Here we got Timeflight. Timeflight is, despite the fact that it's got the Master in it, it comes right after Earthshock, and which I'll get to later, which is kind of an all-time classic, but Timeflight is not good. Let's see here. Resurrection of the Daleks. I'm pretty ambivalent about that. I think it's a good, but they got into this habit with each Doctor having to have a Dalek serial and a Cyberman serial and a Master serial. So it's like it became formulaic, especially once the actors started staying for only 3 years each. You end up having these monsters coming back every couple of years. The Resurrection of the Daleks, it does have original actor as I think it's the original actor, right? As Davros. So it has Davros, which is great. It's the first time and only time that the Daleks really appear during the Peter Davison years, but I don't know. Tegan leaves, so that's a plus. I'm not really a big Tegan fan. So she leaves at the end of the serial. Spoilers for a 40-year-old show. But that's probably the biggest upside. There's a lot of real clunky storytelling. Okay, this is going to be a controversial opinion. Black Orchid, I like this one a lot. It's probably largely due to its brevity. It's a kind of purely historical. I don't think there's any real supernatural element, if I remember correctly, but it's just sort of a fun, short outing that's not too serious. It doesn't really connect to anything else. Has good character moments. It gets over with. So one of the problems with this era, especially with the Peter Davison and the Colin Baker era, is that they kind of drag on. Like there's 4-episode series that really should be 3, maybe even 2. It's a short story. I like it. Okay, here we go. First classic, Earthshock. All-time classic. I get spoilers again. Adric dies at the end, but I think it's probably a little bit overrated. I did rewatch this recently, and it is very enjoyable. I think there's a lot of side characters that stick out and are memorable, it's a hard thing to do, especially in a base under siege sort of thing. There's change in scenery after the first episode, and that's great. There's not much that I need to say about this episode or this series that hasn't been said a million times. It's kind of an all-time classic. Oh, let's see here. This one is... What is this one? Oh, I fucked up. This last one was Warriors of the Deep, which is absolute poop. This one is the Resurrection of the Daleks. Okay, there we go. Castrovelva. Castrovelva is solid. I think it's better than people give it credit for. It's not great. It's kind of mediocre. It's the first... kind of canonically, it's the first outing with Peter Davison, so the story is about him kind of coming to terms with his transformation after the Fourth Doctor dying. But anyway, Castrovelva is pretty good. Here we go. We've got Caves of Androzani, which is again one of the absolute best. Come on, go there. Really, just the Doctor and Perry. The Doctor only has this one outing with Perry. She's not utilized terribly well, but she's still a fun character. I don't know, she's eye candy for the most part. But anyway, we got Arc of Infinity, also poop tier. It's maybe slightly better than that. Kinda I don't really like. It's too experimental. It's too weird. I know they tried to set up some sort of arc with Tegan and was it Mara, the snake monster, or whatever it is, snake spirit, but it didn't really work for me. I think Snake Dance is at least more interesting. That's the other part of this. I'll just do that right now. Snake Dance is better. It's still in the same kind of tier. I actually put Snake Dance probably in B tier. It's not like a classic, but it's pretty solid. I found it more interesting. Let's see here. What on earth is that? The Awakening, another totally forgettable one. That's gonna go in D tier over here. I think that's the 2-parter. I'm gonna give this. I'll put this in the top because I think that's the 2-parter. Maybe the Visitationist. I don't remember. Okay, King's Demons. King Demons is, again, I'm gonna put it in. I'm gonna put it in B tier. It's not great, but it's short. It's good. People give it a lot of guff, give it a lot of shit because of the inclusion of Chameleon, who's not a particularly loved character. It's just sort of an animatronic that didn't really work very well. Kind of the Scutters and Red Dwarf, they're just kind of a non-starter. But it's an okay story. It sort of bridges important episodes, and it's short. That's fine. Planet of Fire, very mid. First appearance of Perry. Last appearance of Trillo. He was not around terribly long. Unfortunately, I do like Trillo quite a bit. Yeah, there's not a whole lot to say about this. Had some cool ideas, but in the end, it was just kind of boring. Yeah, just under Snake Dance. Yeah, okay. Alright, Enlightenment. Enlightenment was one of the best. Enlightenment is the last of the Black Guardian trilogy. We had the beginning and the end over here, and the middle is this next one here, which is Terminus. Terminus is probably the stinker of the 3. So I'll do these two as a pair. Terminus is put it top of C tier. It's got some interesting ideas. It's overly long. It doesn't know what to do with the characters that aren't highlighted. In this particular one, like, we kind of got a highlight with Nissa because she's leaving. She leaves at the end of the serial. Does not go back to Trocken. She goes along with some, space sailors, whatever, spacefarers on their ship after trying to save their civilization, that sort of thing. Okay, and last one, Five Doctors. Five Doctors is, in my opinion, the classic. It is not. I can say a lot of things about Five Doctors. I can do an entire video essay just talking about it, but it's sort of the perfect anniversary multi-doctor story. Like, the story itself is serviceable. It's straightforward. There's not a whole lot of twists and turns. And it's really more a celebration, bringing as many characters back as you can, finding a way to do that. That's kind of the excuse. It's the 20th anniversary Doctor Who special, and largely it's every part of the story is just a service to bring back characters and actors who had left the show. We get Sarah Jane and K9 come back. We get Barbara. We get Zoe. We get Jamie back, at least in cameo appearances, and we get the three main Doctors, plus we don't really get Tom Baker because he was kind of a little bitch, but we do get Peter Davison with Patrick Troughton and John Pertwee, and that's like magic in itself. I forget the guy's name who does Herndal. Yeah, he does a very adequate job of doing kind of impersonation of Bill Hartnell's first Doctor. He performs admirably, considering he's filling kind of big shoes, but he's kind of the also-ran. He's not the main the main show is Pertwee, Troughton, and Davison interacting. And the story is interesting, but it's not like, the story isn't really what makes it fun to watch. Anyway, alright, there we go. So I've got 3 serials, 5 Doctors, what's it called? Caves of Adrasani. I can't even read this. Like, some of these icons have the DVD block text, which you can read, and some of it just has the images, and the text is very tiny. Anyway, and Earthshock. Those are the 3 that I would say are the unabashed classics. I like Modern Undead. I like Fort of Doomsday. I like Black Orchid, and I like Enlightenment. Those are all solid. Castrovelva is also worth watching. Most of the rest of this is sort of filler, and that's kind of how I feel about the Peter Davison 5th Doctor era altogether. He's not particularly interesting Doctor. He's sort of the golden retriever of Doctors. He's very positive and very helpful and very kind-hearted and kind of doofy and flawed and fucks up a lot. But he's really just kind of a nice British gentleman sort of thing. And it doesn't really work for me. He's not particularly odd or eccentric like Tom Baker was. He's not particularly grandfatherly or anything like that. He's sort of babysitting 3 petulant children. And doesn't make for the best watching. Anyway, there we go. Thanks for watching.